So good morning. This is my first time working with the FAA. So when we got the email, it said, you wanted to be a part of this Center of Excellence. I said, absolutely. They said, well, we've got some projects, you want to look at them? I said, absolutely. They said, you have 24 hours. Okay, so we looked at the projects, and my team emailed me, and they said, we don't have time to meet, but I'm in. And Dr. Whitty back here, I know what he does. Met somebody over industrial and psychology. She goes, I'm in. I don't have time to meet. Just write something up. We'll do it. It's like, okay. So when we looked at the list of projects, we found something on training and gamification. I work a lot with the Army, especially the Army gaming centers, like training. We got Dr. Whitty, gamification, Army Gaming Center, that's ours. So we went there, and what they want to do is look at how we use gamification or game theory, virtual reality, those kind of things to better train people. So we got that, no problem. So our goal is to look at all the training and how it's done right now, see how we can improve it. So I think everyone in this room has sat through really bad training, right? It's awful. Do you remember it? No. You don't remember what you did. You sat there, you played with your phone, you froze in the room, you were like, I can't believe I have to sit here and do this. That's what we want to avoid, because especially with the safety and the things that your guys are training, right? Air traffic controllers, it's kind of important. So I'm flying home today. I want my air traffic controllers to have paid attention when they were in that class. That's what we want to do, okay? So we want to look at how everything's being done right now. And then we want to see how we can apply those things that we know through gaming and training, especially now as we have a lot of people retiring and we're looking at many of those millennials and those other individuals. They do not think like we do, right? They think best in front of computers. They have shorter attention spans. A lot of research has been done on how to train these folks. But honestly, I hate that kind of listen to the sage on the stage, as my friend says. Kind of training anyway. So we want to get them in that atmosphere. We want to show them how things are done. We want to throw different things at them that they don't expect. So that's our goal. So our task first, how are things done right now? Again, I work a lot with the military, not FAA. Can't be that different, right? But I've got a fixed-wing pilot, a rotary-wing pilot on our team, and we want to look out there and see how things are being done now, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. If there's great stuff out there, we want to take that. We met some great people. Karen put us in touch with some great people last night. We can already dovetail what we want to do in the future into what they're doing right now, so we don't want to reinvent anything. So we're going to do that. But the next thing we want to do is develop one prototype model. So one module, figure out if we've got it right, test it out, have everybody take a look at it and say, okay, this is the way to go. So we got one module, say it's air traffic control, or maybe it's an inspector module, right? So we take that, and then we build modules off of that. So we're developing a system, not just one thing, so everything can dovetail. The other thing we want to do is develop platforms where we don't have to train everything at one site. So you might train everything at the academy, but then you have these other sites that do things differently, or if we want to train something in Atlanta, they do things differently in Texas. We can do training on different sites, so you don't have that constraint of not having enough places to train. But the other thing we want to do is have these constant updates, right? So in my profession, we have to do continuing education units all the time. We want to be able to do those in-house so you don't have to send somebody to Oklahoma. Not that Oklahoma's not a great place, okay? But we want to send people or not have to spend that money. So the goal then is to save the government a whole lot of money. The other thing we want to do is once we get those two set up is look at phone apps and other things, right? So you got a break, you want to update your training, you can sit there and do it on the phone. Then all of those different types of training can be sent into a single dashboard, so you can keep track of where you are in your certifications and your training, but also your advisor, your supervisor. So we can look at, say, safety, you've checked that mark off. Level 1 of some type of training, you got a 90% on that. Level 2, You got a 50% on that. Okay, we got to go back. We got to redo some remedial training. We're not ready to do that yet. So that dashboard, you can keep track of it. Your supervisor can keep track of it, and we can keep adding things on there. So that's kind of our overall plan. We're going to start with one module, though. Okay, and then phase 2. We'll spread that out. We can add other things onto our modules of training. So our training expertise. We've got Dr. Whitty back here who's been training adults for a very long time. He knows how to do it. We've got that nailed. We have our industrial psychology person who really studies decision making and how people make decisions, how they choose to do things both in the industrial environment but also in the training environment. So those two are going to be working together to figure the best avenue forward. How do we develop the best content and how do we approach it? And then next slide. Then we get to gaming. Okay, so we work a lot with the Army Gaming Center. They're about 4 hours north of me, and I'm actually doing part of my sabbatical there with them next term, so it's perfect. But they have this amazing facility where they can do anything that I want them to do. So those first few pictures there that flew by really fast, they have a marker system, mocap system, where they can mark people and they can capture, just like Gollum in Lord of the Rings. He was created through that mocap system. They can do things just like that, all right? So taking those markers and putting them in the computers, they can put it in real world, and then they can create things like this. If we click on that first link, it'll give you just some example of how realistic their work can be. Hopefully this will work. This is something they put together for the Army. You can bring that up. So this is just a promo for one of the things that they've developed. And then they create that with their artists, and they have just some amazing people. So the other thing that they can do, we don't need to see that again. Oh, that's probably a lot more interesting than me talking, so that's cool. There we go. All right. And I'm not going to have my air traffic controllers firing weapons, I promise. So, okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is just a little diagram on some of our connections and the resources that we have, the Warrior Research Center in the middle there. So any other resources that I can reach out to help us with this. And our next slide, we got our last slide. This is our team. And Frank Blackwell, he's our Army Gaming Studio person, and we also have Dr. Keith Loge, who does our stats and kind of our big data kind of thing. So that's our plan. We're going to have questions later, but we're really excited about this, and that's all I have. Okay, thank you.